Guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what is happening in the market, what we can expect, of course, moving forward with Tesla stock, and is it finally ready to rocket, or are there some issues? So I'll give you my thoughts. As per usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., I do share my thoughts every single day the market is open. So definitely check it out. That link is down below, where again, constantly sharing my updates with my members as the market is trading, so they get it right away, essentially. Yeah, again, that link is down below. If you're interested, definitely check it out for just $3 a month, or for $5, you get access to everything I just said, which is mainly Tesla updates and sometimes other stocks, plus NVIDIA daily updates for the $5 tier. Again, pretty cheap in my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to make it expensive, but again, that's down below. Anyway, jumping into it, Tesla closing the day up with an absolutely unbelievable 8% on the day, closing almost at $430 per share, which obviously compared to the market, despite the market having a pretty damn good day today, which I've been talking about the last few days, I think the bottom is closer than not. Now, again, the bulls are not out of the woodwork just yet for the broader market. You know, Tesla with an absolutely beautiful outperformance regardless of the market still having a good day as well. So what does this mean moving forward for Tesla stock? Well, Tesla has, not even arguably, it has quite literally broken out of this, essentially downward channel / bull flag, right? That is obviously very good news, right? Now, from here, I think overall, the picture is essentially, I personally believe Tesla as my main kind of first target. And, it could be the only target for now, because I mentioned on the weekly time frame which I'll reiterate later again, what I think can potentially happen. But I'd be surprised if we at least don't see about $460-ish per share. Again, I don't know when. I'm not going to try to say when. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday, maybe next week. I don't know how long it'll take. Maybe even in 2 weeks, right? I don't know, right? Nobody knows how long it'll take. Maybe, who knows? Who knows? That's what I'm trying to say. But that is pretty much my main target right now, $460. Now, shorter term speaking, like as early as, today or tomorrow or Friday, the question is pretty much, do we just go straight up to that level, or do we get a little bit of a pullback first, a little bit of a retest of the breakouts, and then go up? That's the main question. So I'll give you my thoughts on that moving forward. So going to the 4-hour chart first. The main thing I'm eyeballing here is the fact that, so obviously we had that, breakout that you also just saw on the daily, right? Beautiful little breakout today after we had a false breakout the other day, right? So that's why you want to be sometimes careful with these breakouts, because you can get trapped like this, right? Obviously we didn't in this case, but you can. So, you always want to be careful. Now, the Bollinger Bands are, you can see they were getting pretty tight. Now we are at the upper end of the Bollinger Band, which is, usually where I start drawing a little bit of caution, because like I mentioned many times, kind of like when we were at the bottom of the Bollinger Band down here, there's a good chance that the upside, at least in this case, the upside is probably a little bit more limited than not overall. Now, again, this could be one of those instances where, of course, we just hug the upside, like this pretty aggressively. Obviously, these kind of things happen, but statistically, these are more of an anomaly type situation than not. So what I'm trying to mention here is the fact that Tesla, on the 4-hour chart, is a little bit overheated, right? Just, not a lot. I know people are gonna be like, oh my God, it moved up a bit. Now it's overheated. It is, right? It is what it is. It is a little bit on the more overheated section, just like back here, when we were essentially at, and honestly, even below the Bollinger Band and the 4-hour RSI was oversold, we're pretty much on the opposite end of the spectrum now, where we are above the Bollinger Band and the RSI is now in overbought territory. So the way I look at it is this: we could get a bit of a pop, maybe we get a tiny bit of a pop, but the question to me is, especially if I turn on after hours, right? Do we get a move back down first? A little bit of a small cool off, maybe back to 415. I think worst case scenario will be an actual retest of the breakout, which will be closer to like 407 or so. I wouldn't hold my breath for that. If you do, that's probably the best risk versus reward type entry, not financial advice, if it does happen. But obviously we don't know if it'll happen, right? Nothing is guaranteeing that whatsoever. So, there is a chance that the only retest that we quote unquote actually get is, potentially just this 425, which we're pretty much already getting in after hours. Obviously, that's number one. And number two, of course, would be a retest down to these levels down here. So you can see how, my kind of, massive little horizontal rectangle, if you will, I have over here, right? You can see, especially with after hours turned on, how much this top end of it was an area of essentially support and resistance many times in the past, right? Support back here, and even over here, arguably, and then, obviously resistance over here. So there is a chance that we come back down to that level. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we do get a pullback first, which, I think we might, and it would be potentially a very short pullback to the downside, it would mean the fact that, rather, one of the three levels would be the fact that, 425, which we're pretty much at already after hours, all the way down to about 415, which would be this level I just mentioned, and quote unquote worst case scenario, if that makes sense, right? If we get like a more deeper pullback for like a true retest of the breakout on the 4-hour time frame, would be about 407 roughly. So those are my three main levels, I would say, to the downside if Tesla does get that pullback, before ultimately what I would expect to be, of course, naturally, an upside move after that to about $460, right? But again, predicting these very short-term kind of movements, these very short-term sort of, micro movements, et cetera, is difficult. Nobody knows for sure. So we could easily just go from here and go straight up as well, right? You never really know with Tesla stock. But again, the way I look at it, I try to look at it as objective as possible. Whenever I see a stock, near the upper end of the Bollinger Bands on the 4-hour, let's say, it's not as strong as the daily, of course, right? The daily is obviously much stronger, and there's a lot more room up towards the daily, of course, naturally, which is actually sitting close to 460. But this could mean a bit of a small pullback is due. Small pullback maybe tomorrow/Friday, and then we ultimately zoom up after that. So that's kind of my overall general consensus right now on Tesla stock. But the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that overall, at least as it stands right now, unless something catastrophic, of course, happens, all avenues lead to about $460 per share, essentially is what I'm kind of overall estimating and predicting at the moment, right? So yeah, that's just kind of that. In terms of options flow, let's take a quick look at Tesla with the options flow. Overall, the bulls are absolutely decimating the bears here. There's no question about that. If I bring out the black box over here, you can check it out very quickly as well. You can see that, the bulls are absolutely winning, but in terms of confirmed bullish or bearish flow on Tesla stock, it's actually nowhere really to be found. It's actually all the way down here at 5 million. So maybe profits were taken. You never really know on all these ones that we're seeing here. But yeah, all in all, the stock doesn't look bad at all. In fact, it actually looks really good. The breakout is pretty much happening. Again, the only question is just on the micro time frames. Do we get that pullback first down to one of those three levels, one of which we're pretty much already at now after hours at 425 roughly, to 415 to 407. Those are my main three levels to the downside. Obviously, 407 is technically the best risk versus reward because that's the true retest. And then ultimately, I think all paths lead to 460 roughly. Unless obviously something catastrophic happens, which, sometimes with Tesla stock, you honestly just really never know. So let's see how it plays out moving forward. That's kind of my general analysis on the stock. Again, the daily chart, we still have the stochastic flipping bullish, which is always a good sign. MACD is starting to curl up a little bit as well. So these signs are all looking good, but the 4-hour and the daily chart, the RSI, is starting to peek its head close, if not already in, of course, on the 4-hour chart, overbought territory. So, wouldn't be surprised. Small little pullback potentially, maybe small little cool off, just very small. Nothing major. I think worst case is like a 3% cool off. That's probably the worst case scenario, honestly. But ultimately, again, this, or this is essentially what I'm kind of expecting right now on Tesla stock. But let's see how it plays out, because again, the market is not out of the woodworks just yet. It's still technically making lower lows, lower highs, right? So and technically the market is essentially just reverting back to the mean today from being oversold, kind of like what it did all these times right here. We're essentially doing the exact same pattern. So technically speaking, we could still go lower like this. I don't think we will, but technically we could, right? Until that structure obviously breaks. So anyway, so that's kind of my general analysis and my thoughts. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for watching. See you for the next one. Peace.